meeting for October 25th, 2023. On the panel today, we've got Milton Chan, Director of Engineering, and James Cooper, Director of Building Approvals. I'm chairing today. John Irving, General Manager of Engineering and Public Works. So the panel deals with issues of form and character, architecture, parking, lighting, etc. We don't deal with issues of land use or density, so we won't be discussing those today. I think we just have one item on the agenda today, and the order of business will be that we'll hear the proponent's presentation. We'll hear from staff. Then we'll hear some panel questions if there are any. And at that point, we'll have an opportunity for anybody here from the public to address the item. And that will follow with panel deliberation. So with that, I'll move to the agenda. We have the minutes from the Development Permit Panel meeting of October 12th. Can I get a motion to adopt those? Great. Seconder? All in favor? Okay, so moving to item 1, Development Permit Panel, Development Permit 17790086. The applicant's Jujar Construction. So it looks like we have a few people there. So the floor is yours. Please introduce yourselves, whoever will be presenting, and proceed with your presentation. Thanks.
With DF Architecture, my name is Yuri. I'm associate with DF Architecture. I'm also present another senior associate, Zubin Bilmora, and the Deep Think registered architect. Okay. And so let me start. So basically, the subject site. Let's 1 second. We'll share the screen. Okay, the subject site is located on the west side of number 2 road between Maple and Woodwards Road. Ita Woods recently built 10-unit townhouse complex on the north and single-family residentials to the south and to the west of the site. Across the street from the proposed development on the east side of number 2 road, there are 4-story seniors apartment building and the church. So the site is relatively flat and gently raising up in east direction from the west property line towards number 2 road. The proposed development consists of 5 buildings organized in 2 rows parallel to number 2 road, with garage doors facing the internal drive aisle, which connects the site to the existing development to the north. The site vehicle access has been provided through the next one. Yeah. The site vehicle access has been provided through the neighboring property to the north, which has vehicle access from number 2 road, higher to the north. Yeah. The shared access complies with the arterial road guidelines for townhouses as per the official community plan. The pedestrian access to the site has been provided from number 2 road by a 1.5 meter wide walkway located between buildings 4 and 5 facing the number 2 road. Practically in the middle of the development. All units facing number 2 road have a private walkways connected to the city sidewalk with gates to access the unit's private open spaces, as you can see from this site. Okay, the main access walkway is combined with the outdoor amenity space, which has been carefully designed by a landscape architect to retain and incorporate the existing tree into the design of the amenity space. This approach allows to create an attractive family-friendly public space located at the center of the complex, which makes it highly accessible for the residents and visible from townhouses, units, and from number 2 road as well. That also benefits the overall site design. It emphasizes the site main entry, adds more visual interest to this area, and provides a great interface with public realm. That also benefits bike rack and mailboxes also have been proposed in this public space near the outdoor amenity. The garbage and recycling facilities are located at the number 1 building, and the main access to the property from the neighboring development. This facility design is incorporated the design of number 1 building and have the roof and closure around. 3 visitors parking stalls provided on site. 2 of them are located at the north side of the internal drive aisle at the site entry point, one of which is the accessible minivan stall. The third one is located at the south end of the drive aisle. And that location of the parkings provide the unobstructed access for the residents to the amenity and to the central public space. Despite of its small size, the proposed development provides a high level of housing diversity by proposing a wide range of building and unit types. It consists of one fourplex, one triplex, 2 duplexes at the west, and the detached house at the middle between these 2 duplexes. So altogether, and plus we have one off-block unit, which translates in 2 different unit types for this development. The development has been designed in context with the existing architectural character of the neighborhoods, specifically with townhouse development to the north. Like, better probably go to this, this. So we can see it clearly. So, newly developed townhouse complex to the north, and the single-family houses to the west and south of the property. To maintain an interface with the existing single-family residence, building 1, 2, and 3, placed along the west property line, have been designed as 2-story buildings, similar by massing and scale to the existing houses to the west. Building 4 and 5 facing number 2 road, designed as a combination of 2 and 3-story units. The end unit at the south of the building 4 and the end unit at the north side of building 5 are 2-story high. That allowed us to stop and transition to the adjacent residential developments to the north and to the south. These 2 buildings are similar in massing and scale to the townhouse complex to the north, were strategically placed along number 2 road to create a solid but attractive streetscape. To avoid monotonous appearance, the shape and form of the buildings are sufficiently varied due to use of vertical articulations, porches, dormers, and varied roof lines. Incorporation in building design-specific elements such as curved dormer roofs, oval windows, projected porches, chimneys, and large heritage-style windows, which are more common for the upscale houses, allow to create individualized, attractive building design. For this development, we propose to use high-quality, durable finished materials with different physical parameters, texture and color, including stucco, hardy panels, brick and stone windows. That allows to enhance the elevations and add more visual interest to the building design by emphasizing certain elements of the buildings, like projections and recesses, porches, building corners. That's probably basically everything about the building design. In conclusion, I would like to say that, in our opinion, we were able to develop a small, well-designed residential complex, which fits perfectly into the existing architectural context of the neighborhood, provides human scale character to this development, creates attractive street frontage, and great interface with the public ground. At the same time, the proposed development has its own individual character and upscale appearance, which will be beneficial addition to the local community. That's probably all at this moment. So if you have any questions, we'll be answering. Right now, of course, I will pass the presentation to our colleague, landscape architect. So please, George.
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing the screen here. Great. Thank you. I'll be as brief as I can. Can you fast forward to slide 3 here? Just basically run through the landscape rationale rather quickly. Next page. Thank you. As the architects were mentioning, I think a lot of our attention was paid towards the adjacencies of the property to the north, but also the streetscape treatment, providing a really well-resolved and a separation between public and private, using fences, gates, and planting, and respecting the grade changes that we are addressing on the west and north edges of the property as well. So I think it's really just about creating a sense of privacy as well as publicness along the edges, well defined between those two realms. And the next slide. Thank you. We worked very hard to incorporate some of the outdoor amenity into the center area, which I'll allude to in a moment, and looking at the landscape treatments, planting that are drought tolerant or require less water than others. So always being sensitive to water budgets and maintenance requirements. On the site plan, you can see the extent of our landscape treatment, as the architects mentioned, private yards on the side facing 2 road. We've also most recently done some adjustments on the west edge of the property to step down to the statutory right-of-way, respecting the grades along that back western property line, and ensuring that statutory right-of-way is kept clear. There's one large existing deciduous tree in the bottom left of the site that adjacent to our property that we're also respecting, as well as the group of cedar trees in the middle on the west as well. So all of those grades are being retained. But most importantly is the large oak tree, which you can see off of 2 Road right now. It's a really beautiful specimen, and we're working with our arborists to ensure the root zone of that is maintained and protected. And we're incorporating some decking and amenity features around that tree that are integrated with the playground and the mailbox kiosk and other amenities there. So I think we've worked very hard with planning to address all of their concerns, and to be a really well valued preserved tree for the entire development. I won't get into the details of grading or planting. If board members have any questions around the elements in the plan, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. If you could just stop sharing for now, that would be great. Mr. Reese, any comments from staff?
Yes, a couple of comments, if I may, Mr. Chair. So this is a 12-unit townhouse project. 2 of the units within the project are convertible units and have been designed to be easily renovated to accommodate an individual with accessibility needs. The proposed development also includes 1 ground level secondary suite of approximately 400 square feet. The buildings have also been designed to comply with the BC Energy Step Code Level 3 with a low carbon energy system. There's also a servicing agreement associated with this project for utility and servicing connections and frontage improvements along the number 2 road frontage, which must be entered into prior to the building permit issuance. Also, I just highlight, as noted by the applicant, significant measures were taken for tree retention along number 2 road, including a 40-centimeter English oak tree.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from the panel for staff or the proponent? Mr. Cooper, you're muted.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. I have some questions. Is there a great difference between the on the west border to the neighbors to the west?
I can't answer the specifics of the landscape. It varies from north to south along the west property line, but there's a grade change. I'm going to roughly estimate around 900 to 1,000 or 0.9 meters to 1 meter from the finished floor elevation to the property line. And so in the sections in our plan, you will see that we provided some retaining along the backyards of those units to accommodate those grade change.
Great. So one thing I like to point out is that the city is sensitive about the overall height of retaining wall and fence as perceived from the neighbors. So a comment would be that care should be taken that's within limits. Second question is along the front, the fence that the city does have maximum height for the fence along the front property line. So take care of that also should be addressed. And where you have garbage, the garbage bin area, is that roofed over? Is that how is that addressed? Is that would there be gates or the garbage enclosure there, or is it an enclosure?
So we'll just pull up the drawings for building 1. It's in the building 1 drawing. It is completely enclosed, by the way. So as you can see here, it's an integral part of the building system. So it would be having walls at the sides with shutter, lower doors at the front, and having a roof on top. So it's completely enclosed. It's not kept open to the environment from any side.
Sorry, we don't have the drawing up. Were you trying to bring that back up?
Oh, you don't have the drawing up? I'm very sorry. Okay, so this is how the building, the garbage enclosure has been enclosed. So we do have the walls at the side with shutters, and it would have a roof on top. So it is completely enclosed and made to look as an integral part of building 1. So it doesn't look as an eyesore. So it looks like part of the building. Also, with regards to the previous question for the grading, we've tried to keep it within the city requirements. As you can see, just 2 steps everywhere to try and drop it down. So it's within the bylaws as permitted by us.
Okay, so with that garbage enclosure vis-a-vis Unit A, have you considered the fire separation that's required between them, and have you considered the privacy and the acoustic requirements for the people who might be living in Unit A?
But definitely, the walls would be upgraded to meet the requirements as per the code. So there would be the fire separation wall that would be required. So we would be rating it as per that. In terms of visual separation, it is kept at the rear, and there would be a small stub wall in the front with a screen in front. So we've tried to visually divide the two.
Okay. Now, and the truck access, is the truck required to back up?
Sorry, Mr. Cooper. Just while we're on that and on the garbage, if you could, in addition, describe how you're going to buffer that visual and sound impact to the neighbors to the north. What's happening on the property line there in front of the garbage trail?
I think landscape could answer that, but I think we just have fencing up here.
That's correct. We have a minimum 6 foot high fence all the way along that edge, John, and there will be solid fencing as well. And that fencing will step as it steps down towards the northwest corner as well, just so that the height isn't exceeding the city requirements. So again, we worked hard to make sure we're responding to those requirements.
Okay.
Thanks.
So is the garbage truck required to back up? along the access route?
I think currently it is, if you see the access truck, it would be, the garbage truck would be coming up to here and then backing up for the 3-point turn out as it would function with the neighboring lot.
So, all right. So has that been, and I'm assuming that has been worked out with a service provider there, that they're willing to back up that way, that distance?
The client is working on it right now.
I think it would be sorted, yes, with the service provider.
They have previous communication with them, so
Okay.
it will be in writing.
Okay. Yes, please. And can you show where the fire hydrant for the fire response would be?
In front.
Yeah. It's right in front of the main pedestrian entry.
Okay. All right.
So easy of access to just about the entire site. So centrally located.
Okay. And in your discussions with the fire department, the access distance to the front doors of all those units are approved?
Yes, we provided the fire access plan as well.
Okay.
It has been provided.
There is a proposed on-site hydrant too at this point. So there is an additional hydrant. So there is no flexibility on site for access to all the units.
So that's the extent of my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schubert. Mr. Chan, any questions?
No further questions from me.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do we have anybody from the public here wishing to comment on this? If you could stop sharing again, thanks. Did we lose Rustico, Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have two members of the public online wanting to delegate on this item.
Okay, do we have names or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Mr. Winton Loh and Mr. Rajan Chima.
Oh, okay, well, let's start with Winton. If you could please turn on your camera and introduce yourself, and the floor is yours. Oh, you're just muted.
Hi there. Hi, Chair.
Hi, yeah, please
Yes.
introduce yourself and let us know what you want to say.
Yep. I'm from the neighboring 9211 strata holder, unit holder. Okay. And because actually to a lot of the owners, this is something we are not familiar, and the statutory right of use of way. So this is something we are not familiar, and I think the builder sent a lawyer to communicate with us, and back in August, and then we're actually in the process to discuss with them how to utilize the public the role, how to use it, and somehow they we retain a lawyer, a counsel, legal counsel, and then they hasn't they said they're going to they agree to provide us with some sort of fund, so we can hire a lawyer and then discuss with them about the details of how to when they build the project, so how we can do it. And somehow they stopped communicating with us, and as well as our lawyer. So that's why we have some hesitation if they start building their project, and then there's still something like smaller matters we have to agree upon. So this is I think this is one of the concern. And I also listened to the presentation when they start building, I think they have a little bit different design from their strata. I just wonder if for the design to get into their properties, would they're going to compromise, or we all have to decide like how to make the sign so both party will be happy. So there is a lot of like communication. I think I'm not quite sure how we can do it unless they start like talking to our lawyers, so they can discuss together and then find some solution. So this is my main concern.
Okay, thanks. It's not necessarily an issue for the development permit panel to look at. Again, we're just looking at form and character here, but while we have the consulting team and the proponent on line, perhaps we could get a comment from them on their engagement and communication with the strata to the north and what their plan is for bringing that to an acceptable resolution.
Yep, sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So I don't know if the client is there online, to be honest. This is more of a legal matter which they're supposed to get sorted with the neighbors. And I'm sure that they would have to work with the neighbors to make this project feasible. We can forward the concerns to them and ask them to get in touch with the neighboring strata. Honestly, we're not involved at that level with the legalities about site access. So that is something the client would be able to address, and we could definitely ask them to get in touch with the planning and with the neighboring strata to get this sorted before anything moves forward.
Okay, well, maybe I can direct you subsequent to the meeting to staff to have your client confirm with staff the status of those negotiations and what the plan is to bring that to conclusion.
Sure, I think that's the right approach.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Rajan. If you want to just turn your mic on and your video and introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
I think my video.
Mr. Chair, excuse me. The developer, the owner is here in chambers.
Oh, okay.
And she would like to respond to the delegate.
Okay, great. Sorry, Mr. Rajan, we'll just put you on hold. If the proponent's here, again, if you could please introduce yourselves by name and tell us what you'd like to say. Thanks.
Yeah, I am Jazz Johal, and I'm the project manager, and this is Satnam Johal. He's the owner. And I just want to say we have multiple records of our lawyer reaching out to the neighboring strata, probably at least about 15 times. And with the city's recommendation of coming up with a cost-sharing agreement and trying to communicate with the neighbors on what they're looking for. And we have record of all of the times that our council has reached out to the neighboring property, strata, which has been numerous times.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then it's happened very recently?
Yes. We've also informed them of this meeting today. The neighboring, our lawyer Brian from PLLR had advised the neighboring strata of the meeting today, as advised by Edwin Lee, the planner. And we've also, at least 15 times before that, have records of emailing the strata, phone calls, emails, and it's all through PLLR Brian, who's our lawyer.
Okay, well, hopefully you can continue on that path and bring that to
most definitely.
resolution.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, I just to bring up, I believe Francis, our strata chair, council chairman, he should have sent some communication as well with the builder to the adjacent site. The communication actually, they have a record about the communication. Actually, they had communication like 4 years ago, and then they stopped there, and without, of course, there was a pandemic, so that's why they may stop and didn't communicate with us. And then 4 years later, suddenly they just push really hard, and it was in the summer, and a lot of owners actually they are out of town, so we had to wait until everyone is back in town, and then we try to hire the lawyer. And actually, their lawyer, Brian, they had communication with the lawyer from outside, but they hasn't really communicated like fully because they haven't paid the legal fee as they agreed upon earlier. So actually it was in late September and early August. October, sorry. Late September and early October. So we're still waiting for their communication. So maybe Brian, the legal counsel, can talk to their client and explain the latest situation. So we are still waiting. We're happy to work with them as well.
All right, thank you. Well, it sounds like there's certainly willingness on both sides so maybe there's been some gaps in communication, but we'll certainly be looking forward to that continued communication and maybe a renewed push on finalizing the agreement. So again, not really an issue for the development permit panel, but appreciate the comments. So we'll move on to our next speaker. Thanks. If that's Rajan, if you're ready to go again, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Hi guys, my name is Rajan. I can't unmute my video or turn on the video because I think it got muted by the host. So if the host could allow me to start my video. Perfect. Hi, so my name is Rajan. I'm one of the owners in 9211. I'm also part of the Strata Council. My wife and I moved here last year. We purchased a property. We're first-time homeowners. So this whole thing has been a little bit of a setback and headache for us. I just want to add on to a few points that Winton brought up. So regarding the statutory right-of-way and the cost-sharing agreement, so the whole thing is we have talked to legal counsel. They, as Winton said, they have spoken with Brian from PLLR lawyers. However, when the PLLR said that they would reimburse us for our funds, once we got legal counsel, they denied reimbursing it. So we're in a bit of a stalemate where they're supposed to reimburse us after agreeing to it, but they have not. So we're kind of waiting on that. So it's not that we've stalled negotiations or we haven't replied to the 15 messages that the construction company is talking about. We've adequately replied to what they wanted, but we haven't heard back from PLLR as to whether they will continue to fund or start funding our legal counsel after they said no. So that's that issue. I understand it's a legal matter. It's not your guys' domain, but I just wanted to put that out there on the record. One big concern for us is safety. So obviously we're sharing, there's a statutory right of way, which I had no idea that existed. That's definitely new to me as a first-time homeowner, but they're using our access to get into their units. There'll be 12 units going, so 24 cars. So I think just from a perspective of children playing, that's a lot of cars and a lot of traffic going through one way. So I'm kind of curious as to why they don't have their own access point and why they have to use our sort of access point in order to get to their unit. So I'm not sure if someone in the council or someone can address that.
I think, there's some maybe staff, Mr. Reese, if yourself or somebody could talk generally about our design approach there or requirements.
Certainly. So thank you through the chair to the delegate. The city's policy is to reduce the number of driveway accesses onto major arterial roads. At the time of the initial rezoning of your property at 9211 number 2 road, an SRW was registered on the property that would grant access to the subject site. The legal documents providing for the shared access to the subject site are registered on both the common property and individual title of all of the units. So there is a notification that is on title. With respect to concerns around using that access to access this subject property, again, that was envisioned at the initial time of the rezoning of both the subject property and the property at 9211 number 2 road.
I guess I understand the fact that it's on the title. I've learned that after that is something that's been on the title. But I think our big concern is now you're doubling the number of cars for one access point. And I think it makes more sense to have an extra entrance point in order for another complex, because you're doubling the traffic for 1 point. And I mean, 2 road is quite fast. Even though the speed limit is 50 kilometers, we know that most people don't drive at that. speed. So there's a lot of cars that are going to be coming in and out very quickly. So it just seems like a bit, it's a accident waiting to happen when you're doubling the number of cars to one point. So that's our concern. That's a big concern for us. So I'm not sure if that's something that can change, or if that's something that can be negotiated, or if that's something that's just there to stay. But that's one of our major concerns that we're having with this development, along with the cost sharing agreement, because that's still up in the air, because that hasn't been done yet.
I appreciate the comments. I mean, maybe just to add to what Mr. Reese has provided. Yeah, I think, again, generally, we do have a lot of developments of this form. And certainly with unit or vehicle loading quite far in excess of what exists here, even with this additional development, that would probably be quite a small amount of loading on a single driveway. And I think, again, from our policy and city point of view, the key safety concern really is that access point to the arterial road, and making sure those are minimized. That's where I think historically we see challenges with safety, both for vehicles and pedestrians. I don't think we've experienced any safety issues within the driveways of the development. Mr. Reese, you would correct me if I'm wrong, but
and not to my knowledge, Mr. Chair, what I would comment on as well is that this application was reviewed by the city's transportation department. The drive aisle that does exist on the subject site or on the property to the north is sufficient for safe two-way vehicle traffic.
Yeah. So yes, appreciate your comments, Rajan. But this has been, over several decades, really a lot of effort and thought to this general form has been fed into the policies that we have. So this is, I think, from the city's point of view, what we feel is by far the safest approach from a transportation point of view.
Can you elaborate onto why it's safer at this point rather than a separate one? How does that improve safety?
Mr. Reese?
Yeah, through the chair to the delegate, it improves safety through limiting the number of access points on the number 2 road. So now you're reducing the overall number of conflict points and potential issues. Through as I mentioned at the time of the rezoning for your property as well as the subject site, it was always envisioned that we would be limiting access on the number 2 road and trying to consolidate that through these properties. Again, it is the more safer option.
And is this?
Not really for us to get into the details of that, but certainly Mr. Reese could put you in touch with our transportation staff, and they could provide you with a much more detailed response and discussion on those aspects as well.
That would be really helpful. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do we have any letters then?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we did receive letters from the public on this item.
If you would like, Mr. Chair, I can quickly summarize those.
That would be great. Thank you. Go ahead.
So we did receive 3 pieces of correspondence, one from Mr. Rajan Chima, who requested to delegate and who just spoke. Another is from the homeowner at 9326 Lacka Drive, to the west of the subject property. They were expressing concerns with respect to maintaining tree height for the hedge along the common property line west. The other piece of correspondence is from Francis Chan, one of the owners of 9211 number 2 road, speaking with respect to the same issues identified regarding the shared access arrangement.
Okay, and any comments on that?
The only comment I would add, I think we've spoken to the matters regarding the shared access arrangement with respect to the maintaining the height of the trees forming the hedge along the common property line. The hedgerow that abuts the west property line is identified for protection It's also located along the shared property line. Both the current property owners as well as the developer will be responsible for the maintenance and care of that hedge going forward. Ultimately, any pruning of the hedge should be done in accordance with arboricultural best management practices.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reese. I guess we'll move to panel deliberation, and maybe I'll kick that off. I think generally you've got a pretty solid design here that seems well thought out, so I'll be happy to support it. But certainly we'll be looking for some signals to staff in the near future that negotiations with the Strata to the north are back on track and being brought to an acceptable conclusion. So don't know if there's other comments from the panel.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm in general support of the design as well, with those points we had discussed earlier today, and there should be consideration as to the positioning of heat pumps as well throughout the project, as to minimize the noise and impact onto neighbors, both interior and exterior. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add that I do appreciate the site grading efforts to take into consideration the right-of-way in the back, and also the forming character seems to be quite in alignment with what's in the area.
Great. So we have a positive staff recommendation. Can I get a motion on that?
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is passed. Thank you very much. So that's the only item we had. I don't believe there's any new business. And the date of the next meeting, I believe, is November 16th. Is that going to happen, Mr. Reese?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your help. Thanks.
Thank you.